I'm going to give you my honest opinion of Tokay cleats and what you need to know about them. I'm Brian Nevison. I've been playing Ultimate for 20 years. I've been a trainer for 15 years. And full transparency, Tokay was nice enough to send me these cleats for free almost 2 months ago. So I've been using them for almost 2 months in all different conditions. And I love them, but at first I wasn't quite sure, and I'm going to tell you why. Okay, so when I first put these on, initially pretty comfortable. It felt a little more cramped in the toes than I thought, and I'm really used to minimalist style barefoot shoes. You can see how big the toe box is. These are super flexible shoes. So my feet do not love the typical cramped, tight style of cleats, which is why I was so excited for these. So on the surface, it didn't seem like the toe box was that much bigger than, say, the New Balance Freeze, which is what I typically would wear. But I think because there's just less fabric here, there's more room inside for the feet. And what I found was once I started moving around in them, my feet felt really good. I didn't have any of that like ache on the arch of the foot or the bottom of the foot. If you know what I'm talking about, when you're breaking in new cleats, it's like a fatigue and an ache getting used to the cleat. I didn't have any of that. I had a little bit of pressure in the heel, but by pushing here, I massage this a little bit. I always like to bend my cleats a little bit like that. Okay, so doing that, popping them on, I had no issue. And that's what I do now. So occasionally, especially if it's a little colder out or they're a little stiffer, I'll just push in here a little bit. I'll get my foot in, wiggle it around, no problem whatsoever. So they felt awesome the first couple times I wore them. And then maybe the third or fourth time, I was using them on turf for the first time, cutting pretty sharply, and I was in them for a long period of time, and I felt some discomfort on the outside of my little toes. So it felt like blisters starting to form, which worried me a bit, and I was like, ooh, I'm not sure. However, I wasn't wearing my normal grippy socks, which I now wear every time, and it also may have been just part of the breaking in process because the next several times I wore them, I didn't notice that at all, and now I have no issue, don't feel anything in any of my toes, no discomfort whatsoever. So the initial break-in period, really awesome. What I also noticed very quickly was that the traction is excellent. So I have now used these on super bone dry grass and concrete-like ground. Not fun, but sometimes we gotta play on that. I've used it on wet grass, muddy grass, dry turf, and wet turf. And I found across the board really good traction and really low percentage of me slipping out. And I like really aggressive angles and sharp cuts, so I'm very tough on my cleats, but I found that these held up really well in terms of A, no real wear and tear to speak of, and B, giving me the traction and the grip that I need to make the cuts and be powerful. So traction on all surfaces has also been really excellent. And another thing I'll note, I wasn't sure at first about the cleat pattern, but clearly it's been working. What I have loved with the New Balance Freeze is they have these little ones on the outside that kind of stick out a little bit. When I get really low and extreme angles, that seem to help. Now these have small ones here on the outside, but what I found is with these, I occasionally cleat myself. Hit myself like right in the shin or something. This has not happened a single time with these cleats, with the Tokays. So that's been a nice little benefit, right? You know, fewer scrapes and bruises on my shins, pretty nice. And a final thing I'll note here is just the minimal nature of the bottom here. So these are the New Balance Freeze I typically like to wear. They're fairly minimalistic and flexible because I bend them all the time. They have a little bit more built up, a little bit more rigidity here. The newer version I absolutely hate because it's much more rigid and there's just much more blockiness in here. Okay, I do not like that. I freaking hate it. These are very thin right here. There's not much between you and the ground. It's plenty to feel good and feel supported, but it's not built up so much that you feel unstable or unconnected to the ground. So wearing these, I feel really connected to the ground, like my foot is really stable and flat. It's not pitched up or wedged. It's not shifting to the side. Some cleats, you kind of move around a little bit. No issue with these. So all in all, about 2 months in, I have been really happy with these cleats. I no longer rotate the New Balance in at all. I exclusively use these because when I go back, they just don't feel as good. And every time I go back to them, they feel worse. So these are my number 1 cleats. Until further notice, Tokay Flight. Trick shot. I was trying to knock off the Frisbee. Hold on, let me get another one. All right, everybody. Hope you enjoyed that. Take care. Have a great day.